Self-connection.
So welcome everybody. It's either Monday, January 2nd or Tuesday, January 3rd, depending on where you're sitting. And this is the Open Hearted Practice Group with Jim,
And Jory.
calling as usual from Maui in Hawaii. And we won't talk about the weather because we don't want to stimulate our own shame for being in such a wonderful place. But we're really glad that you are able to be with us. I'm glad you have your electricity. And today's class is called From Now On. And that seemed like an appropriate title for the beginning of the year. In Hawaii, we say Ha'oli Makahiki Ho. Ha'oli Makahiki Ho basically means happy season of the Makahiki, and the Makahiki are the Pleiades, the seven sisters, which is a significant part of Hawaiian culture. And they're visible during 5 months of the year. And this is pretty much the middle of the Makahiki. So we're glad to be here with you today. If you're here for the very first time, I want to extend a particularly warm welcome to you. We're never quite sure how people find us, but we're really glad when you do. And we call this the Open Hearted Practice Group because it's focused on opening our hearts, utilizing nonviolent communication, which was created by Marshall Rosenberg. And now there's about 700 certified trainers around the world, including Jory and me. And so what we mean by practice group is there's lots of practice built in. We will practice all three different modes of nonviolent communication, three different kind of styles of practice. One is where you're just with yourself, call that self-empathy or self-compassion or self-connection, something like that. Then we'll also have the opportunity to have some interaction where you can practice empathy, which is the listening part of nonviolent communication, using your heart and your ears. And then there's the honesty part, which is where you speak your authenticity. And so we'll have a chance to practice all of that today at various places. And so we do some of the work here in the large group, and we do some of it in small groups. And if you don't want to be in a small group, you can let us know by putting an equal sign in front of your name. And we'll just put you into your own small group with other people who don't want to do small group work. No expectation when you're there that you interact unless you want to, unless you change your mind. And you can change your mind at any point during the call as well. And let's see here, if there's anything else I want to say. Anything you want to say? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm a little tired. I'm glad you've got so many words to say because I have very few. They'll work out well today.
Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good myself, and looking forward to being with you all. So I need to drive this mouse for just a second so I get my self-connection exercise up for myself. So first, why don't you just, if you want to do the self-connection exercise, just notice that you're breathing. You don't have to do anything to change your breath. Just first notice breathing. And connect with the life in each breath that you take. Each breath is like receiving a gift. As you take it in, allow yourself to receive it fully. And breathing out, you're giving a gift. Giving the gift of carbon dioxide, which you don't need. So you give it to plants who need it to survive. So you're giving the gift of survival and thrival to plants. going to read a poem for you, written by Marshall Rosenberg a long time ago, I think sometime during the late 60s, maybe during the 70s. Not sure the date on it. But it's called From Now On. And the idea is that you just take it in. I'll read it one line at a time, and you just take it in and see how it lands in your experience. From Now On by Marshall Rosenberg. From now on, I choose to dream my own dreams so that I can fully taste the mystical excitement of being human. From now on, I choose to empathically connect with others so that I can fully respect the unique and holy experience to be found in each person every moment. From now on, I choose to have my actions flow from connection with nature and to direct my attention where it supports this flow. From now on, I choose to be aware of the unchosen, dehumanizing thoughts my culture planted within me, and to prevent them from leading me into robot-like violent actions. From now on, I choose to openly reveal what is alive within me, even though others may not appreciate the gift. From now on, when wearing a title of authority, I choose to be aware that reaching frontiers before others never justifies punitive means to influence them to join me. From now on, I choose to believe that the failure of our needs to be fulfilled results from insufficient dialogue and creativity rather than scarcity. So now notice how you feel having heard these words. See how they land in your experience. You can open up some small groups for 10 minutes. The little timer in the upper right hand corner of your screen will say, we'll count down from 9. There'll be 1 more minute at the end for you to finish up your conversation.
And we have groups of 2 and 3.
And here you go. We'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. Back.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back.
And I'd love to hear from anyone who wants to respond to what was read today, or if there's anything really important that you would like to have heard here.
And the way you can do that is either through the chat, which you can access on the bottom there. Right there in the very bottom, there's a word that says chat. You click on that, it gives you a little chat screen, kind of like a direct message or text message on your phone. Or you can do what Tanya did, which is raise your hand. And you do that by looking on the bottom of your screen. There's a smiley face with a plus mark. It says reactions. If you click on the little arrow next to that, it opens up a little menu.
Yeah, it's over on the right-hand side, about 5 or 6 in from the right.
Yeah, and thank you for the reminder to turn on the transcript, Purva. So now the closed captioning is on. Go ahead, Tanya.
I want to lift up Kay and her fantastic, beautiful, wonderful, generous concert that she gave on New Year's Eve. It was unbelievably beautiful. Every single minute of it was stunning. And I just feel so blessed by Kay that she invited me to come. Thank you, Kay.
Wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that celebration, and thank you, Kay, for offering it.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge I too have had that experience. It's really very sweet. Thank you, Kay, for sharing it as much as you do.
Anybody else have anything you'd like to share? Love to hear your voice, especially if it's hard for you to speak up in groups like this. It's a nice way to stretch and try, because no one's going to bite you here. All right, go ahead, David.
Hello, I'm David from Arizona and new to the group, but I did the poem and I wrote down some notes as you were reading it, and a couple of words that came out to me and that gave me some insights is the words robot-like actions, and just reminded me of prior to my journey and really working 12-step programs and cleaning out, getting healed from the inside out. Said I used to operate on the autopilot sort of thing, and not really cognizant or aware of my behaviors and how they impacted me, what they were motivated by, how they impacted others, how they destroyed or nurtured. Uh, and so now I have a firm resolve to live consciously, and I study a lot of Buddhism, and I'm primarily Jewish, but I do study some Buddhism and Native American philosophies that teach that awareness and conscious living. And then you also mentioned scarcity, and I came up in a home that was very poverty mentality, even though we had quite a bit of money. But it impacted me negatively in that I was scarcity, not only financially, but knowledge, emotions, skills, talents, and things that Yahweh, my higher power, gave me so I could help other people. And I was hoarding it, like Eric Fromm teaches the hoarding personality. Well, that was me. So thank you for letting me share. I would like to hear from other people, so I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you for your willingness to practice honesty with us and give us a chance to empathize with you. I'll put the poem.
Yeah, and to have you
Thank you.
introduce
Thank
yourself
you
into
very
the
much.
group is really sweet. Thank you for doing that.
So I put the poem on the screen in case you want to do a screen capture on it or take a picture with your phone or something like that. You're welcome to do that. It will go up on our website, pathways-to-liberation.com, in about a day or two when I put the recording up there.
And if you scroll down a little bit, I think you'll see that somebody else has their hand up. Just
Yeah.
scroll that down a little bit. Just bring that.
No, nobody else.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Siva. Whoops, you're still on mute, Siva. I see your lips moving though.
There.
So I want to thank David for putting words. I can just the name, the words that he said were so helpful to me, because I have this idea that until you put a name on something, as Shakespeare said, what's in a name? By naming something, it gives you a handle, and then you can look at it through various lenses. And I really appreciate that. And I want to put out a name, a word that I've heard um, uh, David, I think you're, at least to me, you're known as a Buju.
Or a Jubu.
Well, no, it's Buju.
Buju, okay.
And I see, and more, I see myself as a Jew because I am by birth a Jew, and I'm also an educated Jew. But one more thing that I think comes from all religions, and I want us to, it's become to me more, I have more and more awareness that life, that just life, and even things that are not alive, but certainly things that are alive are awesome and holy. And without some beyond human capability of deep understanding, there is holiness. And what we're actually trying to do is connect to that holiness that's within ourselves and in everything other thing.
Thank you, Siva. And thank you, Stephen, for finding the link on one of our other associated websites, NBC for the Next Generation. I guess we posted it there and you found it. So the link is in the chat.
But it's not to everybody. So you
Yeah,
need...
this is right here to everybody.
Oh, Steve did. Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Juliana, then we'll finish with Roya and move into the lesson. Go ahead, Juliana.
So I just want to thank you, Jim, for this poem, and Marshall also for this poem. And it's so aptly titled From Now On, and this is the new year. And the last verse actually hit me because this is my New Year resolution, that from now on I choose to believe that the failure of our needs to be fulfilled results from insufficient dialogue and creativity rather than scarcity. And for me, the longing and the starting of trying to be authentic, and more than just authentic, but dialogue is such a powerful tool, which I have picked up and got from NVC to be able to express my empathy and my honesty in my relationships. That's something I'm just so grateful to for, and that I've started to do it, and it's so connecting, so fulfilling for me. Thank you.
You're welcome, Juliana.
Thank you.
And
Roya?
Stereo.
Yes. Chorus calling you.
Okay, I am thankful to Kay for the beautiful concert she gave, and also the poem that you read. First of all, I'm a Judeo-Christian Muslim, and Muslims believe in Moses and Jesus, so we are called Judeo-Christian Muslims. And I understood what David was saying, and I have empathy and understanding for him. But for this poetry, I found that the judgments of others towards me comes from their value system, comes from the way their needs are not met somewhere, or it's not about me when they judge me, it's about them. That is, so it gives me a lot of relief.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that insight.
Yeah, that's a very powerful insight. And I hear some compassion in you as you say it as well, which I also value a lot. Thank you.
And Karimar?
Hi, sorry, I know you wanted to pass on, but I just noticed a reaction in me. And it's interesting because I have read this point several times, and it's the first time I have this reaction. And it's about the part that says that Juliana mentioned about sorry, I have my reaction, and I don't know why this time it's kind of like my heart is pumping fast.
Yeah.
It's about let me find it. I had it, and because of the strategies and the creativity. Just let me find it in the poem. I'm sorry, I had it in
No
mind.
worries.
Are you did you just put it up? Yeah.
Yeah, here you go.
Yes, please.
There we
The
go.
last line.
Okay. Yes, the last line. I choose to believe that the failure of our needs to be fulfilled result from insufficient dialogue. So I had the reaction thinking about collective and the system, because if someone doesn't know MVC, this might sound as it is my insufficiency in my lack of creativity. So I think of people being hungry or not having a place to live or a lot of systemic issues. And it might sound as, oh, it is my lack of creativity. It is my lack of strategies. I'm not seeing the strategies. So I think in this case, it would be more like collective, a collective issue, and that
Exactly.
must be taken into account. I guess.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, I think you're really pointing to something important, Karimar,
Yes.
that I think now, of course, this is a complete hallucination in a way, although I did hear Marshall talk about similar things. But my sense is that Marshall developed nonviolent communication with three main goals in line. First, and this is kind of how would you say, demonstrated by the way that he designed his 9-day trainings called International Intensive Trainings, kind of point to why he did what he did and what the essence of NBC is all about. The first day of an IIT he called Undoing Culture Crap, or Healing from Culture Crap. Or another way, more positive way of putting it that sometimes he used would be creating a life-serving system in yourself. So how we can use nonviolent communication as an inside job. That's foundational skill. But that's not what it was ultimately designed for. It's a foundation to stand upon to then move into relationships, which is actually what we're going to be focusing on today and for the next little while. Because obviously with nonviolent communication, we have dialogue, as Juliana pointed out. We have this ability, it's a superpower to use honesty and empathy to start working at the level of universal needs in order to discover our shared creativity and to find ways to meet needs. And so that's a second level of foundation, because once we have the skill to be able to build relationships, now we can use the collaborative power of relationship to start influencing social systems, to actually do a kind of social change where more needs can be met at less cost on an ongoing basis. And so I think ultimately Marshall's dream was that NVC would become second nature to us. It's he called it our natural language. And that when we live with our connection to nature fully enlivened, then we will naturally see strategies available as to meet more needs at less cost. And that we will be compelled to dismantle strategies that are costly and hurting and harming people. Why would we let something like that happen?
Yeah, and we're not talking about cost like money. We're talking about cost to our well-being and a cost to our needs, various needs.
Yeah. And so that's actually, I'm so glad you mentioned it, Karimar, because it's the perfect segue into the topic today, which is about how we can start building that first foundation in order to then extend into the relational foundation so that then we can do the social change work. So let me share my screen with you again and guide you in an exercise. So here comes a chance for you to do some writing and some exploring for yourself about some of the tools and strategies available to us to make life more wonderful. So the first step is to remember a time when you felt engaged, deeply flowing in an activity that required focus and attention with another person. So some examples of that might be you're working on a project together. Maybe you're doing some writing or writing music together, or jamming music, or
making a meal together.
could be playing a sport together, or a game, but something that involves another person that you were really fully engaged in. So you're not multitasking. You're not doing it while you're on your phone. You're not doing it while you're doing anything else. You're just fully engaged.
And you're not doing it alone. You're doing it with somebody.
So take a moment and think of a time when you were doing that. And then write it down. Make the observation. What specifically were you doing, and who specifically were you doing it with? So I see a few people still writing. That's fine. If you finished, check what you wrote and take this as an opportunity to practice. And what I mean by practice in this case is look at what you wrote and see if you can make a distinction between any evaluation or judgment or opinion that has snuck into your writing, and just take it out. Just report what you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. So rather than saying, I was having this fantastic jam with my friends and they were doing such a good job, that would be an observation mixed with evaluation. It would be, I was playing music with Mark and River. Boom. That's all you really need. There'll be time to explore the feelings and needs and evaluations as we keep going. But this is a critical, important part of NVC, this ability to make an observation. Next, connect to the needs that were fed while you did this activity. I'll put up a needs chart in case you want some vocabulary support. I'll make it bigger.
There, nice. And these aren't the only words that you might find that relate to needs, but they are pointers. And what we mean by needs, for anyone who's new, are we're talking about universal needs, the needs that we all have, the needs of just being human. Just one.
When you find your needs, of course, you're naming them, and then savor the needs. Savoring is where you enjoy that this activity that you engaged in created pleasure for you. That's what happens when our needs are satisfied, is our body responds with joy or gratitude or some other pleasant emotion. So you savor what it's like to have those needs satisfied.
And for those of you who are not as familiar with needs, when you get to a place where you say, oh yeah, that was my need, just ask yourself, and if I had that, what would be the deeper meaning of that? And you keep going through your needs or whatever words are coming up for you until it just sort of lands. It's like, oh yeah, that's at the depth of it.
Okay, so this savoring is where we start getting in touch with our feelings. And as I mentioned, when your needs are satisfied, it's natural. It's our nature to feel pleasure, to feel what psychologists call positive emotion, what I like to call life-affirming emotion. So maybe it shows up for you as gratitude or joy or inspiration. So those are the names. And then you just allow yourself to feel it fully right now. You open your heart to yourself. And you can actually double the feeling or triple it if there are three people involved by extending not only the feeling that you have, but your empathy. So let's just imagine that Jory and I were working on a crossword puzzle together. And it was really meeting my need for fun and collaboration. And so I was feeling joyful and happy. And I looked over at her. She had a big smile on her face and she got one. She got one of the clues. And I connect to that feeling of exhilaration, of guessing it and seeing it revealed on the puzzle. And so I double my pleasure by connecting with hers. The Buddhists call it mudita, M-U-D-I-T-A. It's like just enjoying compassionately another person's joy. And in German, it's called Freudenfreude. It's this fantastic feeling, this fantastic superpower that we human beings have to not only feel our own feelings, but to use empathy to double our joy. And then go back to observation again. What did you accomplish when you were engaged? Accomplish may seem like a big word. You know, if you're working on a crossword puzzle, you know, I do the little mini puzzle in the New York Times every week. It takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes on a good day, 5 minutes on a day when my brain's not quite awake. But it's still, when that last clue falls into place, there's like a little zing. It's dopamine. It's dopamine. But when I'm doing it with Jory, it's dopamine plus serotonin. So these two super powerful neurotransmitters that are in our brain. And that comes from that sense of accomplishment and naming the accomplishment. So in our culture, part of what we absorbed was you shouldn't be proud of what you do. You know, you should be humble and blah, blah, blah. And it's anti-happiness to do that. You actually are reducing your well-being according to the research. When you experience an accomplishment with a sense of joy, it actually contributes to well-being. And when well-being is contributed to, it contributes to peace. So what did you accomplish? And again, name it. Make the observation. We finish the puzzle.
Jim,
Yes.
can you clarify a little more what would be the difference between this question and identify the needs that were satisfied?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just say my activity was doing crossword puzzle with Jory, since that's the one I mentioned just a second ago. So that would be my first observation. And then the needs that were met were fun, connection, learning, stimulation. And then what did I accomplish? I completed the crossword puzzle. So accomplishment always has this sense of, not always, maybe, might be just a step along a way, but accomplishment has a sense of completion, that we actually have come to a sense of finishing one important thing that we were engaged in. Does that answer the question, Zohar?
So it involves doing. It's in the doing level. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
It's
Okay.
the doing and then the completion of the doing. That is, so the engagement is the doing, the accomplishment is the completion.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks for asking so.
Yeah, I love it when people ask questions, because one, I get to talk, and when I get to talk, I get to learn something new. And secondly, because if you have a question, it means that you probably asked that question on behalf of other people here. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay, so let's go back to the next step. Now we're back to needs again. See, we're oscillating. We're oscillating between observations, needs, feelings. Observations, needs, feelings. This oscillation is a way of creating neural networks, putting down new tracks that are actually healing for the way that we're re-educating ourselves. And so now we go back to needs. What needs were met not by the doing of it, but by the accomplishing of it. So let me put the needs chart back up again. So you can connect to needs. What needs of yours were fed through finishing or accomplishing whatever this activity was? Maybe it's the same ones that motivated you in the first place. Maybe it's some new ones are added.
And again, these are pointers. They're not the only words that point to needs.
If you have your own words, trust yours, don't trust ours.
The main thing is that you find that place inside of you that really lands with that sense of shared reality. Yes, this is something that's important to everyone.
And the reason we do that is because it's how we connect. Nonviolent communication is a tool for creating connection. And the way that you can connect with anybody is through this channel of needs, because we all share the same needs.
It's our shared humanity.
So now we oscillate one more time from this sense of being able to identify our needs to then being able to
find your slide.
to go back to feeling and savoring. Like when we finished this cross, the other night we were doing this on the TV while we were waiting for Jaya, our daughter, to come up and watch something, and so we were finishing up the puzzle, and we put the last one in, and it was like, wow, that just really contributed to a need for completion, and the timing was good, so it was like flow, created a sense of flow, and then the feeling that came alive in me was joy and a quality of pride, a kind of a healthy kind of pride of accomplishment. Do you remember how you felt?
Yeah, it was a sense of satisfaction and celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, now we know what each other was feeling. We talked about it. I can connect with the feelings that she had and empathize with them and double my joy, and she can do the same thing.
And the empathizing is not a doing, it's just a sharing.
It's a being with.
Being with, yeah.
So that part's silent, even though I'm talking the whole time you're trying to do it. So I'll be quiet now while you connect to the feelings that are alive in you.
It's fun to remember those things.
And then name, back, we're oscillating back again to observation. Who else was involved? In my case, it's Jory and Jim doing this puzzle together. So even though we kind of pointed to this in an earlier step, this is a way of bringing back the power of relationship in order to generate life-affirming experiences, well-being, happiness, whatever you want to call it. And then again, we oscillate back, shift back to needs again. Now you can kind of think about the relationship as a whole. What needs are met through that relationship? And savor those needs. Maybe the same needs you already identified, maybe new needs come up. And then bring it to the present moment. Really notice how it is for you right now. How do you feel right now, having done this exercise so far, being with your own body?
Mm-hmm. just get to savor right now this moment of awareness of your positive emotion, your feelings.
And now you've laid the foundation for a next step, the request. So, what next steps could support you in having more experiences like this from now on?
So, what requests could you make of yourself or anyone else?
Another way of thinking about a request is what can make life more wonderful from now on? If you had fun doing this crossword puzzle with your partner, how might you be able to have more experiences like that? I'll give you a little pro tip. I actually start my day with a similar process. Jory's still snoozing next to me, not all the time, but often I wake up first. So I kind of go into this meditative position and I think, how can I make life wonderful today for Jory and me? How could I be warmer? How could we have more fun? So I just ask myself these questions and I just wait for answers to come up. Sometimes the answers come up right there while I'm meditating, and sometimes they'll come up later in the day. Like today, I had the idea. I think I'm gonna make a pizza. I'm gonna make lunch, and I think it was another fun thing for you. I think it made your life more wonderful.
Definitely.
So now you can probably predict what's going to happen next. If you've been here before, we're going to open up the small groups again so you can talk about it with your friends about what this experience was like. We're going to change it to 15 minutes plus one, so everybody has about 5 minutes to talk about what this was like. We human beings, we love to tell stories, so this is your chance to tell stories and listen to stories, and to practice the honesty when you're when you're sharing your authenticity, what happened for you during this exercise or during the thing that you were writing about, and also to practice empathy. So when the other person's talking, you can have your consciousness on what needs are alive in them as they're speaking.
And again, there's 15 minutes, there's mostly 3 people in each room. Have someone be a timer just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. And if you get done before your 5 minutes, that's fine. But then check the next person for 5 minutes and know that everybody has at least a chance to speak for 5 minutes, and you can fill up the extra space if anyone can, if you have more space.
And we will see you all back here in about 15 minutes. Okay. And we're
Almost
back. Love to get feedback. Go ahead, Zohar. You arrive back with your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to ask, what if I don't know how to make this request? Yeah, the request is for myself. And I just don't know how to make this request. And when I start to think about the request, I feel like, oh, I won't be able to provide it to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I find helpful is just to ask myself what do I want? to just start there and see what comes up. What's your sense of that, Zohar? What do you want?
Yeah, that sounds like a good starting point. That kind of breaks it a
Yeah,
little bit.
and you may come up with something very specific or not so specific, and you just keep checking in. And yeah, if I had that, what would that mean? You know, until you really hit the depth of what is wanted.
Mhm. So now you said, if I had that, what would that mean?
Yeah. What would,
If I had that, what I want.
right. What would be the deeper meaning of that?
And
What
that,
would that give me? You know, just to stay there with it.
and that helps you to stay needs focused.
Mhm.
And then, so the idea, at least Marshall's idea, as I understand it, is that if we're connected to the need, strategies or requests will naturally be the effect of needs consciousness.
Right.
So our cultural mistake is we usually start with strategies, and then we quickly encounter resistance. And we were listening to this podcast the other day about where this resistance to like New Year's resolutions, for example, or there's some kind of a self-improvement project that we want to do. We want to do more exercise, or we want to quit smoking, or we want to do this, or we want to do that. So we have some kind of a request that we're making of ourselves. What gets in the way of that? Well, there's a structural thing that's happening in our brain. So to have some compassion for that, the structural thing is that our brains love to be lazy, not as a judgment of laziness. There's nothing wrong with being lazy. You know, it's just that our brains want to conserve energy. This little 3.5 pound thing in our head takes up something like 75% of the energy that we consume in terms of food, all that glucose. And so our brain has evolved to save glucose. So if you have the idea that, you know what, I really should exercise for 15 more minutes every day, or whatever the request is, and then you find yourself not doing it, well, that's the natural consequence. Why would your brain want to give up 15 minutes of exercise? All that glucose is being burned. I might need that glucose later to solve a problem. And so we have to kind of figure out, if we get connected to the need, then the brain then understands, oh, it's actually an investment of glucose. It will actually support me in being able to fill in the blank for whatever the need is, to have more well-being, to have more energy, to sleep better, or whatever the needs are that you're hoping to meet. And so by connecting to needs, you're basically supporting the brain in having a reason to say yes to the request. Is that making any sense to you?
Yes, I take both your answers, and I understand that I can go on with this exercise and add more and more steps. So I can ask what would be the request, and then what are the needs behind this request, and how would it be when this need will be fulfilled, and then savor this, and
Yes.
then keep going more and more, and kind of fine tune my request and what I need to fulfill myself in order to be able to engage with the other person.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Yes.
My brain now is consuming a lot of glucose, and
Yes.
I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What comes up for me is self-care in all of that. You're just
Yes.
really staying connected to yourself, caring for yourself, taking yourself forward. It's very sweet.
And trusting yourself.
Yeah.
You see, our culture, part of that culture crap that Marshall was talking to in his poem, is that our culture wants us to disconnect from our needs, because then we become very good soldiers, or very good workers, or very good fill in the blank, whatever it is. And the best soldiers are not connected to their needs, because if they were connected to their needs, why would they ever kill anybody else, right? they wouldn't. They would rather just go hang out and play pool or cards or poker or whatever, you know, you just go have fun. And so the culture has taught us not to trust ourselves, but rather to trust authority, to trust something outside of ourselves to tell us what we should do.
Mm-hmm.
And so nonviolent communication is anti-authoritarian for that reason, because we're shifting the source of power from outside, an outside authority, back to our own heart, to our needs,
Mm-hmm.
and learning to let that be the foundation for the work that we want to do to make life wonderful for ourselves and others.
Yeah, we move from being a good girl or a good boy into a much deeper sense of connection and service of life.
Yeah. And it's a journey, right? I've been practicing NVC and things like it for 40 years, and every day I still forget. I still do things that are just down the rabbit hole of authoritarianism. Either I start acting like an authoritarian and telling people what to do, or, you know, taking control of the remote control or whatever it is, or I find myself submitting. You know, Jory says that she wants me to do something, and I say, okay, even though my authentic answer would be no,
Mm-hmm.
I'd really rather not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I should, and so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the request, the best way to make the request, or the optimal way, is to make it a smaller request. So rather than to say, hey, would you like to go take a hike right now, you say, how would you feel about going to take a hike
Mm-hmm.
today? And so then you start chunking it down, and you find out, well, I don't really think I have the energy to do a hike today. Then you can continue the dialogue to find a creative solution that might have met the needs for a hike, but you're doing it with dialogue rather than with authority or telling somebody what they should do.
Yeah.
And I thought Jeff take his hand down. So I wanted to see, I think it was you, Jeff. Do you still have a question? And then I see your hand, Leslie. Jeff, did you go? Maybe Jeff fell off the call. Go ahead, Leslie.
I wanted to thank you for the simplicity of your examples, because I've done crossword puzzles with my partner and felt that satisfaction, but I haven't savored it and valued it as much. And when you were talking about it, I felt, oh, it's so simple. I could value these things I'm already doing.
Exactly.
And when you said about the pizza, I felt I redid some spaghetti at it, making it healthier with spinach and mushrooms and red peppers and more sauce. And I felt good about that, but I also didn't pause to savor it as much as I could have.
Yeah.
So thank you for this
You're welcome.
procedure.
You're welcome.
Yeah, observation needs.
Yeah, savoring's the fuel source. It really is.
Yeah, it's like what we're doing is already satisfying if we just gave it more attention.
Yeah.
And savoring.
Exactly.
Thanks. That was awesome.
Got it.
Thank you, Leslie, for making that clarity there. And Jeff has returned.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Sorry, my phone died, so I was bummed to have to jump out and miss part of what you were sharing there, Jim. I think where this was difficult for me, and I think in a lot of these activities or exercises, I tend to go to things that are too heavy. And I did that again this time, but not thinking that it would be heavy. And so my thought that I was sharing, a remembrance of a time working with somebody, was during labor with my wife when she was having our first child. And so there was like real connection and real enjoyment of that experience. Or I thought that that's what I would experience by reliving it. And I went through the needs, and I did the whole exercise and wrote my answers and stuff. But I couldn't I couldn't get to the savor, the needs being met, it was just painful, and so I got the impression as the instructions were given, that it would be pleasant to go back and relive, or like the savoring part for me took a long time. And now in this moment I can say, yeah, okay, it feels good to remember those things, but it was too deep maybe, or
Yeah,
a
because
bit overwhelming.
it also touched other things in your life where there's
Mourning.
mourning in there, there's some pain. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's also a good insight for us in the way we describe what we suggest you use as well.
And your other insight is you never know, right? You pick something that you think is going to stimulate joy, and then you discover there's still another layer. And so I really like how you stuck with it, Jeff, and you just kept kind of working with it and using the skills that you've been developing here in order to get connected, and so that you could find some savoring. And it looks like maybe there's still an opportunity for mourning as well. If those of you who are new, you may not have heard us talk about mourning yet. Mourning is another kind of savoring. It's the savoring of needs that are not satisfied. This exercise that we did today was about focusing on the savoring of needs that are satisfied, but there's also a space in this process to savor unmet needs as well. And I think that does that make it sense? That's what you touched today, Jeff?
Yeah, definitely. I love that you also invited us to think about other people who were involved, because it did feel really good to remember that my wife invited two young women to be present. And so I had the thought that on my daughter's birthday, I could reach out and send a card to each of those two women that I'm still, we're still connected, and just say, 17 years ago, you were in a room with me. And, so there is a lot of joy there too. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it sounds like not only joy, but maybe an opportunity for some healing as well inside of you to be able to really get the bigger picture, even if there is pain there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank
Jeff.
you. Monica?
I really enjoyed this practice, and I'm celebrating the power of kind of rescuing these positive experiences and feeling good about it. And then this is new to me, and I'm really celebrating learning this. Being able to hold on to these positive feelings and to cherish the feeling and how uplifting it is in the moment. And I also appreciate your pointing out that we have that capacity of enjoying other people's joy. And that's exactly what I felt when I was hearing my teammates sharing their experiences. But it also is, it's a common experience for me. I just love to see people happy and hear their happiness. And so I'm just cherishing the whole experience. I think it's very precious, and it's taught me to be more focused on the positive, because it's like a real energy food. That's what I feel at this moment. It's like a real life enhancing in the moment. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I get to share in the savoring of your experience. Thank you.
Yes, and underlining the whole purpose why we do stuff like this is because it gives us the power. It gives us power then to make life wonderful. It's how we actually find the energy to do the social change work, or the relationship repair work, or the self-repair work, the trauma work that we might need as well. It's through accessing life-affirming emotions. Siva?
I'm hoping I'm speaking for everybody, just as the other people I think were also doing. And I just want to say to Jeff that last week, I know you were here because I saw you, but you didn't say a word. I want you to know that I actually missed learning from you. And the same with people who ask questions, like Zohar asked a question. I want to underscore that the ability to ask a question is a very special ability to notice that you don't understand something. For sure, you're going to be speaking for other people. And what I admire
and not paying attention because I've been talking to my parents. Oh, they're back. Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Oh,
Yeah, we had a
Welcome
momentary glitch in the matrix here. But I think I got the essence of your celebration, Siva, and your acknowledgement of Jeff and Zohar.
yeah, thank you.
So I think we're back and solid now. So let me share one little last slide with you for today. And then, so what we're going to be focusing on from now on, for at least for the next few weeks, is this idea of remapping, of creating a new map for ourselves from now on. And this is inspired by, of course, Marshall and nonviolent communication, but also the work of two other PhD psychologists that have been influences on our learning around nonviolent communication and positive psychology, Martin Seligman and Barbara Fredrickson. And so let's just go through what REMAP stands for. We're going to spend the next several weeks, perhaps, talking about the most important aspect of the REMAP, which is relationship. There was just an article in the New York Times, and I'll give you the link at the end of the call today, that'll give you a free opportunity to take a little quiz and support yourself in creating more life-affirming relationships for yourself in 2023. Study after study after study show that if you want to become happier, healthier, and experience more well-being, this is the number one place of leverage, is relationship. And it's not about quantity. It's about quality. Mm-hmm. It's not about having a relationship. It's about having relationships that matter, especially the one with yourself. And when we spend our life energy and our glucose on relationships, then it turns out it's the most powerful investment we can make in our well-being. And next week we will dive in and see how far we get with exploring some ideas that Jory and I have created and collected over the last 43 years of our relationship. The E in REMAP stands for engagement. And we had a direct experience of the power of engagement today. This relates to the idea of creating a flow state. And we'll talk more about it. Flow is a remarkable superpower that every single human being has that allows us to engage with life in a full and wholehearted way. We have a real head start with the REMAP process, those of us who are studying nonviolent communication, because meaning is built into nonviolent communication. In fact, nonviolent communication is a strategy for creating meaning. We're able to sense what things mean by connecting through needs. So we'll keep learning skills over the next few weeks about how to sustain ourselves and make our relationships and our engagements more meaningful. And we will explore accomplishment and heal the thought that we shouldn't have pride. And we will instead explore the life-giving enjoyment of noticing how we contribute to making life wonderful. And the reason we do that is because the more we acknowledge the needs that we support and feed, the more we'll do it. So it creates a virtuous cycle. And the P stands for positive emotion, or life-affirming emotion, as I mentioned earlier. But REMAP sounds cooler than whatever we'd have to change it to with life-affirming emotions. Raffle, something like that. So we will continue to explore these 5 ways of using our heart and our mind in order to create more well-being from now on. And so let's just pause there and see if there's any responses or reactions to that part.
If we can see the chat, I see there's at least 2 things there.
Yeah. Yeah. Here in Africa, we say Ubuntu. I am because you are. Oh, yeah, the recording did restart. Good, we didn't. I'll probably have to make 2 recordings. Okay, so
It's on.
anybody got any questions or comments about anything we've covered today?
Yeah, Siva. Siva, go ahead.
Thank you. Last week, you said another name, and I did look him up, and then I forgot the name, and it was a man's name from South America, and he had his last name is hyphenated. Remind me of the name.
Don't look at me.
You know what I'm?
I don't have that kind of memory. You look like you knew what she was talking about there for a minute.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Manfred Max Neef.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Can you write that down for us?
Yeah, I'll put it into the chat for you. Manfred Max Neef is, he created a needs-based economy. And he was quite the inspiration for Marshall. Most of his work was in Spanish because he was Chilean, but much of it has now been translated. There's even some pretty cool YouTube videos of Manfred talking about his needs-based economy. Mm-hmm. And as someone put into the chat, barefoot economy is another word for what he did. Mm-hmm. He was a big believer in small economies. And kind of going along with the idea of our natural, again, it's about trusting our nature, which is to live in small groups.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It takes a village.
Yeah. And put in, he's a Chilean economist creating barefoot economy. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Suda?
I'm curious.
Go ahead, Susan.
I'm curious. I'm curious about why we use the phrase positive emotion, because I'm trying to move away from positives and negatives.
Yeah. I get that from other people that are studying NVC, because we have this habit to the way we typically think of is in terms of dualities and in terms of moral judgments, like good and bad, right and wrong, appropriate, inappropriate, positive and negative, and so forth. And I use the phrase positive emotion simply because if people are going to look it up on the internet, that's how they're going to find it. And in my own brain, I kind of do the translation and call it life-affirming emotions. Mm-hmm. And I don't like the phrase negative. I don't mind the phrase positive emotion, to tell you the truth, but I don't like the phrase negative emotion because it makes it sound like it's bad to have a negative emotion. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as a negative emotion. All emotions are positive. They're all giving us information. Mm-hmm. And so I get what you're coming from, but that's why I still go with positive emotions. Does that make sense to you, Sudha?
Thank you. I see Anne saying, why not say pleasant emotions?
Yeah. That would actually be clear. We need to write to Martin Seligman and Barbara Fredrickson to change all their books.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I like that. Pleasant emotion.
Pleasant emotion, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Roya?
Okay, yes, I think when our needs are met, all the feelings we have are positive feelings. And where our needs are not met, all the feelings we have are negative feelings or bad feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
But I had a question. How come, Jim, you know African and German and Hawaiian and all these languages? How come you know all of those?
Oh, I don't know. I just know a
Just a
few. I just know a few words, and part of it is because I collect feelings. I just love to learn about new feelings, and often they're in other languages. And so, like this Freudenfreude feeling, that's a brand new one. I just learned that like 2 weeks ago, and I put a link in the chat last week, and I'll put it in again today if you want to see the article for Freudenfreude.
That's clarification.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And John put in the chat and unpleasant.
Yeah, pleasant and unpleasant.
Unpleasant.
Yeah. Yeah, when our needs are not met, we naturally feel pain. That's actually the most observational term would be pleasure and pain. We feel pleasure when needs are satisfied and pain when needs are not satisfied. But again, because of the way we've been programmed, we think that there's something wrong with pain. And pain is actually, without pain, we'll die. We need pain. So pain is a necessary part of being able to sustain our lives. Otherwise, we couldn't cook a meal. We'd burn ourselves and get an infection or whatever. So go ahead, Gail.
I just want to share another perspective as opposed to the feelings, positive or negative. Like you can take self-care, which you would generally think is positive. But if I come from, I have to do this, I have to do this, you're coming from the part of your brain that's scarcity, even though it's self-care, like I got to go to the gym. But if you go to your body will have a different sensation. One will be open and expansive, and the other one will have a different signature in that time when you're experiencing that need. As you said, everything's contextual. So that was my perspective.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate that. So let me leave you with, before we do our last closing links and all that, we still have some time left. So I started a new journaling practice today, and I wanted to share it with you and give you the opportunity to do it. And we'll add a piece each week to this journaling practice if you want. And it has to do with pleasant emotions or life-affirming emotions. And so we're going to go in the same order that I did this morning in my journal. And so the first thing is to consider the feeling of awe, A-W-E, awe. And imagine a time when you have experienced awe. And write down, what did you see or hear or smell or taste or touch? What's the observation that stimulated awe for you? So doing this gives you practice making observations. What I wrote down in my journal this morning for this part was I saw images produced by the James Webb Space Telescope. So 10 words was enough to describe what stimulated my experience. So observations we can learn to be very brief in our observations. Second step, what need of yours was fed when you had that experience? So we go from the observation to the need.
Thank you.
Connect to the need and then savor the need. So in my case, it's the images from the Webb telescope, and it contributes or feeds my need for wonder and inspiration, beauty. Those are the needs that I'm connected to right now. And then once I name them, I savor. Beauty is the one that's most alive in me. So I'm just going to sit with savoring this need for beauty. And then you follow the need to the feeling, and you notice what's alive in your body as you connect to this need. And I just notice kind of an electrical feeling. I notice my face wants to break out into a smile, and I want to pick up the phone and call somebody to tell them about some image that I saw produced by that telescope. So it's like this urge to contribute, to connect. What's the feeling that comes alive in your body? And again, it's a savoring process. These are likely to be life-affirming or pleasant emotions, so you let yourself feel them. Take them in. And then take responsibility for having this experience. And the way you take responsibility for it is, what did you do to help make it possible to have this experience of awe? And for me, I noticed something come up in my YouTube feed, I think it was, or maybe my news feed. I clicked on it, and then I spent some time looking at the images.
Sometimes just as simple as you showed up.
Mm-hmm. Then the final new question that I actually stole from one of the candidates I get to work with, Celia Landman. And she was sharing her gratitude journal with me, and she added a new question, which I love. And it's like, what's the effect? How does that affect your life from now on? So for me, having this experience and tuning into awe opens my heart to have more experiences of awe. Makes me hungry to have more awe. Slows down the speed of life for me so that I can enjoy more awe. That's the effect. What does it do for you? I have time just to hear from maybe one person about what this exercise was like for you, especially if you haven't yet spoken today and you're willing to share. what this little practice was like for you. Whether you liked it or not, I'm open to any feedback. I'd love to hear one report of what this was like for you.
I'm tempted to call on someone.
Yeah, I had that same temptation, but I'm not going to do it. There we go. Beth and or Don.
Hello, I'm unmuted. Hello from Don. What came to mind is Grand Canyon and similar incredible, fantastic outdoor natural experiences I've had. And backpacking the canyon, days of awe and feeling so, even though it's hard work, it's just incredible, beautiful, tremendous, almost overwhelming, joyful, peaceful. And I've had many experiences like that in my incredible travels. So thank you for bringing up the topic and reminding me of awe that I've experienced, even something simple like one snowflake in Buffalo.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I hope you all had the experience of mudita that I just had. Remember, mudita was the word that I introduced earlier in the call. That's sympathetic joy or empathetic joy. And I've been to the Grand Canyon, so when Don mentioned Grand Canyon, it reminded me of the Grand Canyon, and that reminded me of Wailea Canyon in Kauai, and that reminded me of, you know, it's just that's the cool thing about mudita. Go ahead, Leanne.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to, thank you for this, offering this experience of revisiting something that was awesome for me. When I was 21, I decided I was going to try to build a house, and I did. And I was in awe as I was watching this group of people help me put the rafters up. And when the rafters were up, I remember just standing there and looking at this structure, thinking how many needs this had met for me of community and fun and accomplishment and learning. And I felt so much gratitude for all of the help that I got. And I got to relive that just in your guidance. I really, really appreciate that. I really took a risk to build a house. I didn't know I couldn't do it, so I tried it. And I did a lot to bring that about. I invited and requested a lot of help. And I got to experience a lot of confidence. I didn't know I could build, and I've had an interest in building ever since. And I felt a strength as a woman that I have savor every day. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I don't know if you can see the big grin on my face. I so enjoyed hearing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is the world I want to live in, where we
Yeah.
just hang out and share our awesome experiences.
Right.
Yeah. And Purva wrote in the chat, it reminded me of several of the rainbows at one time, places we witnessed as we watched the waterfalls in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool.
I
Okay,
remember those too.
time for some end of the class links for folks. First, if you're here for the first time and you want to get on our email list, you can click on that link and that'll take you to the email list. Second link is Jory's scheduler.
And you are welcome to make an appointment on that with that link. And I enjoy connecting personally with people. I enjoy or really appreciate the opportunity to support you in ways that you might want to be supported. So you are welcome to use that chat and connect. You can make a donation after we talk or not. That's not the important part for me. It's about connection.
And next link is where you can find recordings for these classes. There's lots of them now, and they're all freely available either on our website or our YouTube channel. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, then you'll get a notice when the new one is up. If you go to our website, however, you also get access to the handouts. I haven't figured out how to get the handouts onto YouTube yet, so maybe someday I'll figure that out. A couple years ago now, I wrote a book called Pathways to Nonviolent Communication. It's a small book. It's a fundraiser for the Center for Nonviolent Communication, and although it's small in quantity, it's high in quality. At least I hope it is, because I'm getting lots of feedback that it really is supporting people in learning and integrating nonviolent communication, which is the whole point of it. You could probably get it shipped to you for free, no matter where you live. If you try to order it from the publisher, sometimes the shipping prices are quite exorbitant to places outside the United States. So you can go to this site here in the chat, and it will guide you in how you might be able to obtain the book for free.
And just make a copy
shipping.
of that if you're interested, and make sure that you have it.
We do all of our classes in the spirit of compassionate giving and receiving, which is another fancy way of saying the gift economy or donation. So we don't charge for our NVC work. But if you do want to donate, you can. You can go to PayPal, and you can subscribe like about a dozen of you have done, pay about $15 a month if you would like. And you could do that, or you can just do a one-time gift if you would like to do that. And
you might notice that pattern, that we're not doing this for money, but we do appreciate the support in being able to help people with the gifts that you give us.
Yeah, we've had some great experiences of that last year, supporting Amina in the Philippines and supporting Ramanusha in Sri Lanka. And there's one more link here for CNVC. CNVC is the organization started by Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication. And they also would love to receive donations from you. And in fact, that's actually wonderful for us, is if you donate directly to CNVC, then and let us know what you gave, then that really, really supports us, because we like to give money to CNVC every year to support our organization and our training fee.
And if you put our name on that you're doing it in our name, that also decreases the fees. That gets added to what we need to give every year to CNVC.
Okay. And then finally, here's your homework, if you want some. This is a link to...
Boy, is that a link.
That's a long link. That's a link.
Copy it now if you want.
That's the link to the New York Times, and it's a free link. So I get the right to give away articles from the New York Times, 10 a month or something like that. I did this morning. It's a little quiz to let you know, to kind of give you a little checkup on your relationship health. And so the request is that you do that between now and next week. So I'm predicting that it'll be rewarding. There's a quality of beauty to this quiz. I'm very impressed with the graphics on it and how it builds. It seems super high quality in terms of the information that it provides and the guidance it provides. And we'll talk more about it next week.
And be really clear that it's a request, not a demand. You have choice, but it is recommended.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the weekly email list as well that I send out. And so I think we're complete for today. If you want to stick around for the after party, we'll put you back into small groups so that you can debrief and continue to practice. And with that, we're finished, and we'll see you next week. Aloha, everybody. Bye-bye.
Aloha.
I see two hands, and we will respond to these two hands. But first, just
Bye. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.